Good morning to the Geneva National Community Association Town Hall meeting, hosted by myself, John Plotz, your community president, and Rick Posel, our executive director.
Good morning.
The town hall agenda today is going to be, we're going to go back over the financials, where we are right now and what the future looks like. We're going to have a presentation on the Geneva National Real Estate. This is just the real estate activity that's in Geneva National. Does not include Walworth County or the southeast of the state. It's primarily Geneva National.
So just Geneva National is what you're saying, huh?
Just Geneva National.
Okay.
Looking forward, we're going to take a look at what the future holds for us and the projects we've got going. And then we'll have a session on residential questions that you had.
Hey John, with the residential questions, some of those questions are going to be answered within the PowerPoint slides as we go through them as well. So again, I just want people to know that we're answering questions as we go through, and there'll be other pinpoint questions.
Right. That's correct. Financial reports. Our financial strategy is that the good news is no increases in the 2021 CA assessments. That's our fourth straight year, I believe, with not increasing assessments.
So it's also really good to say here, John, and congratulations to the board. The CA approved their budget on October 2nd. I've never seen it done so early. It was a wonderful job.
Part of that strategy, we'll always have $500,000 in reserves. We will not touch that money. That's for emergency purposes. And our strategy is aggressively continue to reduce the debt.
Let's take a little deeper look at the aggressively paying off the debt, John.
Okay, the first line there, Rick, is paying off the building, which we accelerated. This is as of 2/16. The next line is paying off the infrastructure, which is scheduled to go off in 2029.
Yep.
And the last one is the Swim and Racket Club, which is a separate LLC, which is going to be paid off in 2031.
Correct. Now, as we got into the aggressively paying down the debt, now let's see how we've moved that over the last few years.
Correct. So your first line there is paying off the infrastructure. This is a slide you've seen before. We are on track to pay off the infrastructure in 2023. This is relatively new. We have accelerated the rate and we're going to completely pay off the building in 2024, meaning that in the end of 2024 we have eliminated the CA debt. The blue line, which represents the Swim and Racket Club, is a separate LLC, and at this time we are continuing to pay that off as the loan requires.
How do we, just for our folks out there to explain to them, how did we get after this debt? How were we able to pay it down sooner for the infrastructure in the building?
Well, we've done a very good job in budgeting. We've controlled our costs very well and have come up with the money to take care of the debt. Once that's done, that gives us a lot more flexibility to provide other services, as we'll talk about later in the presentation.
Yes, it will. And like I said, it was the aggressive plan that we put together here, if you remember, a few years ago, and it's been working like a charm.
Right. So as you can see how we're doing this year, our revenues are 2.9 and our expenses are 2.9. So we are right on our projected budget. In fact, we're going to have a little excess at the end of the year, which that excess goes into our reserves account.
Correct. Let's take a little deeper look into how we do these expenses here.
Okay. The roadways, as you can see, the actual versus the budget is right on budget. The sewer and water, we're a little over on the actual. Rick, what happened there on the...
We're a little over on our budget here, but part of that is due to the fact we have more people here. And with more people here on the property, more sewer and more water is being consumed. Additionally here, with all the new construction and new houses being built, those used to be vacant lots, and those vacant lots were paying the assessment, but they were not having any expenses. Now I'm pulling water and putting sewer. Right,
so we had the money coming in before, but we didn't have to provide the services. Now we need to provide those services.
Correct.
Security's up a little bit also.
Well, most of that is really in two areas. It's in technology software to run the program, and then it's issues with the gates. It is really hard to believe that our gates are 8 years old already. I mean, it just doesn't seem like that, but they're 8 years old. If you ever take and pay attention out there, those gates open up, several thousand times a day, each of those gates, and that's, it's wear and tear on it. But That's where we're at with our security group there.
Okay. Payroll, we still have the same amount of people on staff, we haven't cut any people, so why is our payroll down?
Well, payroll, this is a direct reflection on the maintenance department. And what happened within the maintenance department there this year is that we did, unfortunately, had a few people sick. We weren't here as much as they were supposed to be. We had one person here had to take off a more leave of time. And so it affected our maintenance payroll, which affects this, and it also affects our admin in general as well. So.
Didn't we also apply some people to do some capital projects for us?
Yes, we did.
The front gate goes?
We did the front entry expansion out there we're doing. We did use the grounds department here, and they played a significant role in helping us with that. Yes, they helped us in helping the payroll here. They also helped us in the cost of doing the project itself.
Right, so that payroll got switched over to a capital
Yes,
expenditure and reduced that particular account. Admin in general, I think, followed the same payroll type thing.
They're really good.
The debt and operating income or expenses is down also.
This here is a true thing to the staff here. Everybody watches each of my departments. They watch the budget lines. We try to keep our other expenses. We try to hold those the best we can. And of course, the debt remains the debt. You know, even though we're paying down, it pays the back end of it down. It's not paying the front end of it down. So, well, let's move on to what's the next part of our thing beside expenses. We have our capital.
Right. So we sat down and developed a 5-year capital plan to see where we are and what other amenities we can provide, since we're going to be able to aggressively pay down the debt. So we have a capital expenditure plan over the next 5 years, which we'll show you a little bit about, and then how we're going to pay for that capital as we move forward.
Yeah. We start off with the capital expenditure plan here for the 5 years.
So you can see that 2021, we're going to spend almost $1 million. Where's that money going to?
Well, the money, most of the money there is going towards the boulevard. It's hard to believe that a boulevard up there is about $550,000 to replace that. But again, you've got a 1.25 mile run on 2 sides, so there's a lot of asphalt that needs to be put down.
Yeah. And then years 2022 and 2023, we start paying the aggressive debt down to clean that up. Over the 5-year program, we're going to spend about $2.4 million in capital expenditures.
The thing is, when you take a look at 22, John, through 24, but that's more traditional of how we spend capital here. We're usually in that 300,000 mark here. We know why we did in 21. In 25, we're getting a little aggressive again over there, and that's due to the fact that we're taking on some amenities that we think we want to add to the community to enhance the experience. We'll talk a little bit more, but that just gives you an idea what that's moving out here. But here comes the fun part, is how we pay this. Okay.
So in 2021, where you can see the pointer, we're going to have, coming into that year, $1.2 million in capital available. We budget $350 million a year in our normal budget, so at the end of the year we should have 1.5. Minus the $500,000, as we said, we're always going to have reserves, so that money is not available for us to spending. Gives us a capital availability of $1 million. 2021, as we talked about before, we're going to spend $900,000 of that, leaving a balance at the end of the year of $144,000. So again, beginning in 2023, you can see it's $644,000. We add the $500,000 back in to give us our total capital, and then you can see the numbers work through that through all the years. The interesting thing is the bottom of the line, you see in 2025, we're getting pretty close that we don't have very much money left to spend over our normal capital expenditures of only $12,000. However, after that, we will see that amount grow substantially because of we paid down the debt, and we have more money available.
It's a little deceiving too when you see 12,000 because you still have $500,000 up there. So when you see this bottom, a little deceiving. We actually got a little bit more in there. But as you said, pointed out, we do add $350 a year pretty consistently here. And our 5-year plan is where it's at right now. As we move forward out there, we'll see how that goes. But the plan has been working very solid. Now, we kind of given you a good idea here, John, with the operating expenses and how we do and where we're at today. We're talking a little bit about the future in capital and how that's moving along. We have our other little friend up there we have to talk about, our Swim and Racket Club. Let's see how they did this year.
Yeah. It's amazing, when we started the year off, we knew we had some real major problems and additional expenses to cover because of COVID. But we were pleasantly surprised at the end of the year, our expenses and revenue actually was a positive, which I will tell you, in July, we thought we were going to run a negative.
Oh,
It's amazing how we came out so well in the swim and racket club.
Again, by limiting the capacity, which we had to do just due to the fact of the pandemic here. But yes, the expenses came back in revenue. What really pushed this in here though, is unfortunately was us not having the community events that we normally do. And you know, it's sad not to have them, but hopefully next year we'll have them again and we'll be right rolling out. That's how tight those numbers run there, John, because you figure yourself, you know, right off the bat, we have about 20,000 to 25,000 we spend on the community events. You add that back right in there, it's real tight.
Right.
It's real tight how it works.
So we had the plus and minuses as we went through the year.
Absolutely. But overall, it ended up being a good year.
So let's take a look at some of the specific things. Obviously, the cost of goods sold were affected by the number of people there.
Yes.
Next year, we're budgeting for a normal year on the
Cost of goods sold is due to the fact the sales are down, so two played it, which says that we were managing the less income, we were managing that with the cost of sales, so it's a good number.
Administrative is pretty close. The building itself, we were up there a little bit.
We had actually over there, the building what got us there is we had to take care of a condenser on the air conditioning unit, and surprised, but it is what it is.
Operational.
Again, it's pretty good, and that's where that, again, the community events walked into that number.
Yeah. The interesting thing is the payroll is way up, and we have less people there. Why wouldn't the payroll be under if we have less people showing up and we limit the capacity?
Yeah, good question. As I told you before, I have an army up there, you know, of people, but unfortunately I needed an army up there so I could clean the place in between the hour when we took the break, to disinfect, to try to protect our people up there. We also had to add a gate, an exit gate, so we had two entries moving out here, so we had an extra person over there. Overall, it was really based on the fact that we wanted to make sure that we could take care of the folks out there safely.
Well, I think the big thing was also, we wanted the pool open.
Yes.
We wanted to provide a recreational thing. I think we found out that it went very well. We learned some things, and we developed a process to handle 4th of July.
Absolutely.
Where we opened up, and we had, I don't know what the total attendance was, about 800?
750 people there is a rough number. Go backwards on that. If you recall, remember us sitting in here in May, in the beginning of May, thinking that we're going to close the pool down?
Right.
And how are we going to tell everybody we're going to close the pool down? And it's just the way it is. Well, it was nice that we sat back, put our heads together, and we actually figured out how we could open it up, and we knew that the payroll was going to be where we're going to take the hit, and it worked out pretty good. I think that July, I tell you what, the blessing in disguise was how we did the reservations and how it opened up the swim and racket club to people. What we heard, John, was, yeah, I wish I had more time up there, and we understand that. But you know what people said? By limiting it there, I had a time zone to be in. It was less crowded for me. I could enjoy my 2 hours up there. I knew when I was supposed to be, I knew when I had to leave, and it just flowed much easier. It was actually, even from an operational point of view, it was much easier to contend with.
So for next year, you can be assured we're probably going back to a reservation system for the 4th of July weekend so everybody can enjoy the pool.
That's the bottom line. Everybody needs to enjoy the pool. And I think that this showed us a way to do it. So, reserves. I think in the reserves here, we stay flat with reserves in which we're gaining towards the pool. And our debt, again, you've heard the debt story. We're staying equal there, and so is other expenses. So overall, not a bad year. Not a bad year for us.
I thank the staff for their hard work and how well they pulled this off.
Yeah, we're lucky. There's a bunch of nice young folks up there. Well, let's move on to another topic here.
Okay, as we mentioned a little bit about the Geneva National Real Estate, we have some very interesting numbers here for you. Rick's going to take us through what's happened to the real estate market here. You've seen a lot of construction going on. So how are things selling, and how are we doing it by single families and the condominiums?
First of all, John, I'm going to tell you, in 15 years, I haven't seen a hotter market than I see right now. It's this year here, we're projecting right now 135 closings. Okay, we were excited when we'd be around 100. We were excited last year at 124, 135. It's still getting strong, and this is how it's happening. In the single families, this year here is that the single families, we sold 37 single family homes at an average price of $679,300. Days on the market was 99. However, there's a couple outliers in that 99 and also in that price. The outliers here is there's 3 properties that were here, been for sale for 3-4 years that finally sold during this point in time. That really took care of that. If I took that away, single-family homes are sitting there about 22 days on the market. Please understand, it's all about the product that you have.
Right.
Okay, I mean, it really is. When we go over to the multifamilies, where we see 51 units have been sold at a price of $222,000, keep in mind, we have a vast array of pricing in there. Okay, so we do have folks in here in the in the 150,000 range, up to $650,000. It's a big range in there, how it moves. So again, they were on the market 28 days.
Oh, it's amazing.
It is, I tell you what, you go back a few years ago, John, we never thought a house would sell again here. Here's the real story, folks. Construction. Currently, right now, I have 20 new homes under construction out there on the property. And I also have 13 that were built this year that have already sold as well. So again, you figure 33 new things happening out there. That's pretty amazing. I haven't seen this in single-family homes in a long time. Here's the real story here. Is multifamilies, we have 6 units. We have 3 units that have been completed and 3 now they were going to get started out there. They're in the Foxwood area. John, 2 of those units sold already. That's how fast it's moving out there.
Great.
And I think it's really good. But also in this thing here, we have to probably take it a second here. It is an inconvenience construction.
It is.
It is an inconvenience, and as much as we try to control that, and even the builders are being very conscientious of what they're doing out there, it still brings us amount of people, construction traffic, and dirt, and things that go with it, and noise. It's just the way it works. This is progress, unfortunately, and it's working.
So one of the questions I get, Rick, is saying, well, we got all this new construction, shouldn't we have more revenue coming in?
Well, I'll tell you what, 33 of them over there that we were just talking about, those were vacant lots that were paying all along for us. Now,
They were paying assessments before?
They pay a single-family assessment towards the community association. You know what the difference is? Probably 3 differences. Number 1, now they're using sewer. Didn't have that before. Water, your vacant lot wasn't using that. And the third thing here, it's changing the whole complexion of our property. And what I mean by that is, guess what? You're not seeing as much forestry as you used to.
No. So now you know why that the sewer and water bill is higher. So those folks were paying for sewer and water. We didn't have to provide that service.
That's correct.
Now we have to provide the service. So the only way we get new money is new units on lots that are being developed, and that's the
Multifamilies. That's where you get. Now you got that coming online. And yes, you bring up the expenses, but you're also bringing in the assessment.
This will be additional money for us.
It's funny with the construction over here too, John. And again, it's kind of one of those outlier things that go on with it. When you put a flat top up there versus the ground, drainage change. As you know how much we work with drainage now, that's part of how our drainage is changing up there.
And one thing we didn't talk about in the capital expenditures, we spent $130,000 a year on drainage alone. So out of that budget we showed it 5 years. It was $600,000 just to control the water.
Absolutely. And guess what? And the more we walk out there, the more you see. And you got to remember, 1,800 acres of property. If the water tower is the high point, as we know it is in Walworth County, you go down to the lake is down there. Why? That's where all the water's rolling towards. And it moves fast out here. So with that said, let's take a look a little deeper into Geneva National's real estate. Right now, currently properties are for sale. In single families, I have 18 of them. Average listing price is $727. You see the difference between sold and that?
Yep.
It's still moving up. 7 days. We had 7 of them under contract here for these folks over here. Multifamily, there's a couple of them out there for sale, $200,000, and you have 28 under contract. I mean, right now what I'm saying is that you have 35 new folks coming in the community. On top of what we already talked about. You've never seen anything like this before. It's wonderful. Well, let's take a look ahead here, Jared.
Okay, looking forward, what's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 years at GM?
Well, first thing we got to do is let's figure out what we are today. Okay? Some of the top reasons we hear why folks come to us is that they love our environment. They like the way our property looks, the boulevard, just the beautiful things that we go on in here. Lifestyle. Geneva National is a lifestyle. I mean, you got to enjoy what we do here. Gated community. A lot of people are here because of the gates. As much as it's an expense, as much as it can be inconvenience, it's here. It is a good point to have. Here's the subject matter which goes to your amenities, opportunities to connect. It's about being social. How many times you hear it, John? I'm not a member of the golf club. Where can I be social at? Swim and racket club. You know, and by the way, that's where our committees are helping us too, is helping us connect.
Oh, I think the committees have done a wonderful job of, from the welcoming committee and how they developed all these different community events, from the pool, the swim and racket club, and some of the events they're doing, the magazine and the newsletters to help connect people and communicate different things to it, has brought this community together.
It really has. Here's something else though. We saw this year, the welcome committee was not able to do their receptions like they do to greet people, but they did a great job on getting the information to them. They also held them back on doing the trunk and treat and the sit cookies with Santa, which is...
And the chili cook-off.
The chili cook-off, which is just outstanding out there. This year they were hoping to do a block party, which they were actually working with the pool committee to do that with some music and that. Pool committee, we already kind of talked about how they did. Guess where the opportunity that someone found out? Our magazine company figured out a way to do something for the community.
What are they going to do?
I tell you, I'm excited about this. They're going to do a house decorating for the holidays, all right?
Oh.
And guess what? They got themselves a committee of residents right now working together here. They're going to have different categories. They're going to do some prizes, and they're using their money from the magazine that they did by selling those ads. So again, it's not costing the community any money, okay? And it's residents helping to connect.
I don't think people realize that magazine, that excellent piece that was put up by our community, is done through the volunteer program. It does not cost the community one nickel. It is all paid through advertising, and they have a few dollars left over, and they're going to put on this Christmas decoration event, and we'll see how that goes. And it's going to be paid by their excess revenue that they gain by the sales of advertising.
Yeah. Again, it's the people stepping up.
Absolutely.
I mean, congratulations. We got some trends out here in recreation going on. And one of the things that people say attracts to property values is amenities. Currently right now, as our discussions are, is that we feel as though our amenities that we have are kind of limited and we need to expand them. But to your point, this is a plan. It's not just go do something. Because when you just go do something haphazardly, it doesn't end up the way you had hoped. So again, we're working on this program, and that's going to give it some background to it, some backbone. I think in recreation lifestyle, as we talked about Geneva lifestyles here, we can talk about public health connection. What do we mean by that? Drive on our roads, walk on our roads, that's what you see. You see people everywhere. We see people with dogs, strollers, we see people just walking in groups, singly, whatever. People want to get out there. It's part of our lifestyle to enjoy it. That's why those trails and things that we're going to talk about are so important to us. And again, what makes us appealing versus other places? It's what we offer in our amenities. Right now, in gated communities such as ours, which we're doing is swimming, cardio fitness, biking, and trails. Those are the push to it. So you really see that whole public health thing, it's here.
Yep.
It's in here and it's working itself. So what I think you want to talk about over here is what's in aquatics. Since we have the swim and racket club, and we do over here, people are looking for multi-activity experiences. That's why our water aerobics is so popular with the folks out there. They love that. They're doing something different. We're using the pool, but yet you're exercising. A place to visit rather than swim. I can't tell you that, boy, that's exactly what you see up there. I mean, you know, and it's nice. That's why we have the big deck areas.
Right.
Okay, is so that we can enhance that feeling up there.
And next year, we're going to have more entertainment up there to be able to utilize that space.
And I think that's exactly what we need up there, is to help out over there. Again, it's within the offerings that we offer there. Again, they're looking for deck space, they're looking for lounging. We hear all the time, John, about a bar, a cafe, a restaurant, or whatever term we want to use for it. But again, that's something people like. Here's something we probably got to talk about a little bit. When we say bar, the reason we offer wine and beer is because we don't have a liquor license.
Right.
Okay? Now, it's not that we couldn't go ahead and try to get one. Right now, to get on, just a temporary, it's $10,000 for 3 months for us to have that. I guess we could probably sell $10,000 of alcohol to make that work. But again, it's also, the pool's a family place.
Oh, so.
And I don't think we really, so something we got to think about when we get in there. So just to give you a little thought. Trails and open space, this is so important to people. if you recall, John, we had nature trails out there that we did. We stopped working on them a little bit, and not because we didn't believe in them. We believed that we weren't taking care of them to the level we should.
We didn't fund them properly.
And we didn't fund them properly. So that's really what kind of took us to take a step back, and that's part of our overall plan, is to take a look how we can do that. To enjoy this environment that people like in Geneva National, bring it together, enjoy some of those open spaces, and still go on with that public health.
Well, talking about the trails, they're not really interconnected either, and it's kind of disjointed, so we're going to take a look at, as you see later on, how we're going to do the trails. And while we're on this particular slide of trails, is that we're redoing the boulevard, as we said before. We've looked at the boulevard, and one of the things in that whole plan was to put a path in for the boulevard.
Correct.
We looked at different things from paving it, to blacktopping it, to crushed gravel. I'll tell you folks, this is very expensive type events. So, next year, early spring, we are going to stripe one side of the road to take a look at if that's what we really want to do. Because we're going to redo the road in the fall. So it'll give us an idea of how many people utilized it, what they thought about just striping it. It's a much easier, less painful dollar amount to spend on the thing, rather than doing the paths, which $600,000, and we don't know if we have enough people who take advantage of it.
Well,
so it's more of a survey to see how it works for us.
It is. It's a beta test is what we got going on out there. But here's the thing about it. By putting the stripe down, yes, it's an inexpensive way to create a walking area for folks out here. When we do this thing, we're going to stripe it there. We'll make sure we put the bike on it, the diamonds. We're going to highlight so that people really see this to be over here. And I think what you're going to see out there is I think you're going to see people walking out there. Okay, I think you're going to see more than you expect with it. But here's the other thing too, is that it flips the coin over here. We're, as security-wise, we're going to have to make sure we watch the speed out there.
Right.
So, but again, I think this is going to help us by identifying space rather than people just walking wherever. If we can train our people to stay in a spot, you can train our drivers to pay attention for them. So it's a twofold thing. Well, let's talk about some of those amenities we're thinking about out here, John.
Okay. So, as we pay down the debt, we're going to have additional funds available. We're starting to think about what should the futures look like. This is a list of some of the things that we're talking about or thinking about. I don't want anybody to get the idea that next year you're going to have a dog park, because you're not going to have a dog park next year, I can tell you. Our first thing again is aggressively pay down the debt so we have the funds that are available without increasing our assessments. This is a list. If you find something on there you'd like to add, we're more than willing to take a look at it. But we're going to start planning on what really can be a good amenity for us to go to, what's the cost of it, what's the strategy, what can we put it in, and keep looking to improve the amenities that are available for the people.
Yeah, and here, this kind of coincides with what the pool committee just recently did a survey that they surveyed the folks out there. By the way, John, 327 people answered that survey.
Wow.
So
that's pretty good.
You got a good source of information here to pick up to. We'll let the pool committee talk about what they see in the results, but the idea behind it is that some of these items we saw there, they're asking questions about as well. So we'll get some more input. Right. To your point, we're not running out to build any of this stuff tomorrow. Okay, but the key to it is two things. What is it we're going to do, and how we're going to pay for it.
Yeah. And when we're going to do it.
And when we're going to do it, you know.
And then what kind of usage do we get for it?
Correct.
Because we want to make sure that we put something in that we get a high-end usage out of it, and not something that's just for a couple people.
Correct. Because, you know, as much as you like those feel-good things, we got to look at what's best for all. Right. Because all of them actually share in the price of it. So, gives you guys some ideas about what we're thinking about where we're going home. We call it, it's great to be home. That's exactly what you want to be when you come back here. But what do we want to see for tomorrow for Geneva National? It's about creating experiences with people. We want to see that connection occur. We're trying to help the lifestyles crafting and focus more on doing things such as walking, public health, whatever it is, serving and learning. That's where we're taking Geneva National to. And John, I think it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So when we send surveys out, I just want to encourage people to put your 2 cents worth in. Answer the survey, it takes a few minutes. You probably get a lot of surveys on different amenities and things we do. We're just trying to get feedback to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Absolutely. And by the way, speak kindly of me.
now, for the reason we're really here is for our town hall meeting, questions and answer period.
Yeah, well, John, I got that thing to do now, so.
Oh, there's nothing to do.
Well, part of fun. Well, let's take a look here first about community association. It's the governing documents that gives us what it states our responsibilities and our authority. You can find those in the CCRs, so folks, that's how we get to where we're at. And we have incorporation, articles of incorporation and association bylaws that we work with. Responsibilities of the community association is water and sewer, water tower fire hydrants, private roadway systems, security, the Swim and Racket Club LLC. We can set rules and policies for the community association. So that's what we do in our responsibilities, which now as you're going to see in the questions here, and we'll go from there. So the statistics here on the questions that we received, John, again, to be expected. So let's take a look at what we have. We received 15 questions from 11 residents for community association. Those are the questions that we can answer here. The Masters Association received equally 15 questions and 7 residents asked those questions. And the Golf Club has 5 questions, of which 3 residents asked.
So we're going to answer the 15 questions from the residents. The Master Association are going to get their questions, and those people who ask those questions will get a response saying, your question's been turned over to the Master Association so they can answer those individual questions they have, and same for the golf course.
Right.
We're not going to answer questions for entities that we don't control.
Right, I think you want the answer from the entity who has the responsibility versus just us filling it out. So overall, John, 35 residents sent us questions, and where we go. So I want to show you just a little one here, John. Equal split out here, so with how it goes between the 3 entities that were discussed. And today what we have here is that we have 7 questions here that are about the community property. We have 3 questions that are for the Swim and Racket Club, and then we have what we call development questions. There's 5 of those out there. And if you take a look at how many residents asked those questions, 4 asked of the 7 for community property, 2 for 3 of those. So again, we have multiple questions from single individuals here.
Okay.
I set them into groupings, John, and that's what you have in your hand there.
So let's take a look at the questions we have here, all tied in a nice little red ribbon.
Sealed and funkin' Lego to make sure it's all safe for us to use.
Now, we've answered some of the questions, quite a few questions in our presentation we had, but we're going to go through the ones that we think need some more clarification.
Correct.
I will read the question and Rick and I will answer the questions. First one is community property.
Yep.
Security gates. It seems last year during the winter the gates were frequently not working. Has this been fixed? Do we think we will have issues again when it gets cold?
Well, there's a couple answers in there, Eliza. Number one, as we explained before, the system is 8 years old. We did have some difficulties. We did a lot of maintenance to fix them and cost of it. In the cold, in the wintertime, there are times we open those gates and it's purely for safety, so you don't slide when you're trying to stop by the gate there. So we open up, also so we get the plows through there, and we can do that. So the answer is, I do not believe you're going to see any more things going wrong out there, but on the flip side of the coin over there, there may be times that we'll have issues.
Okay. Another community property question. Has there been any thoughts about placing more speed bumps from the main security gate to the golf course entrance?
I think there's been more concentration on that amongst the residents here. First of all, speed bumps are purely emotional. Okay? They're just purely emotional. It is proven time and time again that they are not a good traffic calming way to go about it. It actually causes more issues. But with that said, speed bumps is probably the last thing you want to do. I think we need to take a look at other things, such as the striping of the road did a lot for us. I believe we're looking at another sign this year out there with the camera on it to help enforce that. Those are better ways of going about that.
We keep adding more speed equipment to monitor the people speeding. We started off, we started off at our baseline when we started putting the first systems in was like 34 miles an hour. 34
miles an hour was our base.
And it was heavily on the resident side. We didn't have much contract going on at that time, so we didn't have any it was primarily the residents were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's changed a little bit. We're down to, what, 31 miles an hour
Yeah,
average?
31, yep.
and it's primarily more of the contractors and service people who are creating the problems. The residents have learned, and now because of the increase in activity, we have to keep pushing the other entities to get them to slow down. We can do a lot of work here. We will never, ever stop the speeding. Nobody in the world's ever stopped the speeding. We're going to do the best we can. We're going to add some more equipment again on those spots that we think are very hot. We move the signs around to try to hit those areas that we know people are speeding at to help you slow down. My advice to everybody is just slow down and you won't have a problem.
Well, to your point, the residents are going by it. They're understanding and doing it. It's the service providers leading the pack out there, John. It's the post office that we see. It's the UPS guy. It's the FedEx. And as much as this sounds, it's people who would take care of homes, in a sense, the cleaners. Those who seem to hit the mark a lot out there. We use the term contractor, and I don't want that to get mistaken to the construction folks out there. The builders out there take care of their subcontractors out with it. All of the builders work very positively with us, and when we call and tell them, hey, listen, your subs are doing this, they jump right on them and they try to curb it down. Do we get every one of them? No. But just so we have a... The other thing that I see when we do the finding and we get through that is when we send it to you, think about it, guys. I can't really find people who are not residents of Geneva National. I don't have that authority. I'm not the police department, okay? So the CCRs tell me that the person, the homeowner who allows access, whoever that is, guest, family, service, whoever it is, you're responsible for them out there. So when they're speeding or they're doing something that's not right, you're responsible for it, and that we can enforce. Right.
And some people say, well, I can't enforce it, but it's in our CCRs. It's been in the CCRs since this community was developed. There's nobody else we can go to. You are the people allowing these people to come on the property.
Got to take
and
responsibility.
therefore you're responsible. So when you hire these people to come in, or whoever they may be, tell them, don't speed, because I'm going to be the one that's going to be responsible for your actions.
Absolutely.
I think we kind of answered this question again. The other one, speeding continues to be a problem. What else can be done? I'm going to tell you, we put some money into the capital budget again for some additional signs so that we can track the high areas that tend to be the problems.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, another one on the community property. Does the HOA benefit at all with hosting ice castles?
I believe we do. And where we really benefit is the exposure of our community. They touch hundreds of thousands of people they touch out there. And keeping Geneva National in front of folks out there, I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but I bet you some of it is getting on there. Last year we did ice castles. Look at our real estate right now. We do hear people that said they were here for ice castles. All right?
Yep.
So there's some of the exposure to it. I understand that it's an inconvenience in some areas here, driving, but we also have to remember this is the golf club that's proving this. It's not the community. Okay? And the golf club works. I'll tell you right now, golf club has never worked better with us than they do today. And I tell you what, they do everything they can. This doesn't cost us money, John, does it, to do the ice castles?
No, it doesn't. But we do provide water, right?
Yes, we do.
But we charge for the water.
We charge.
And that's all we really are responsible for them, because that's where they have to get the water from us, and they pay for it now. So any additional water, they're paying for us.
Absolutely. And the other thing too is we assist them in security to help them out, additional things.
But they pay for it.
But then they pay for it as well. So again, I know it's two sides to it, but it's the way it rolls there.
Okay. Next question. Can the community issue term limits for board positions?
Well, I think terminal is more like what happens than anything. But yes, it's in the CCRs, John. You do have term limits. They're clearly identified. 2 years for the folks on the Community Association and 1 year for the folks on the Masters Association.
Right. What about the declarant?
What about the declarant? The declarant is, as forward Geneva National, is an ownership of property is what gives him this right to it. And when we get the property built out to 85%, then he disappears.
The other one is the golf course.
Golf course again is a private entity. They appoint whoever they want to sit on our board, and they have a seat on our board by the CCRs. as does the commercial.
There's no term limits there. though.
There's no term limits on those positions as far as the declarant. It's got an 85% build out. The golf club is for eternity, as is commercial.
As is commercial. So the term limits are in place for the multifamily and single
In the
family.
single family. As you saw last year, we did the multifamily, and this year it's the single family.
Correct. Can the HOA revise the noise ordinance around contractors, limiting things like tree clearing, excavation, and other nuisance disturbances to only 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday?
Well, on the top of this situation is the ARC really sets the hours. The hours are, right now at this time of year, 7 to 5, Monday through Friday. Saturdays and Sundays are more difficult, but Saturdays you can do work with approvals, and we try to keep it with no big heavy equipment, and we try to keep you indoors with windows and doors in the building. However, we do understand at this time of year, we're trying to get foundations in, and there are some exceptions to what we do to it, but with approval. We don't let these guys just do whatever.
Can the HOA create a spot on our GN website for residents to advertise generally used items for sale?
I think the website was to provide information to people, is what we're supposed to do. I don't know what to do with that, John. I think no is the answer, okay? And no being from the mere fact of, now we got people complaining what's being sold, what's not being sold. I see just us getting into a real quagmire.
I don't think it's really our bailiwick to be able to provide advertising.
We have in our rules, you cannot have a garage sale. So think of it that way.
Right.
You know.
Similar racket questions. Can you create 2 actual pickleball courts on the available land by the tennis courts? And I can say, sure, we could. It is part of the blue sky meeting if we're going to. Currently, the usage for the pickleball courts is very limited. And I'm a little disappointed because we did do an extra effort to include pickleball courts when we did the tennis courts.
Right.
And I know they're not separate courts, and that tennis court is a very, very expensive surface, and we're getting a little wear and tear because of how we do the pickleballs. I would like to see it. It's going to be something in our blue sky meetings, but until we get the usage up, it goes back to, do I put a court in for 10 people? It's really not the usage we'd like to see. So if we get more activity, obviously we'll move those things up in the priority list.
Well, just touch on the blue sky thing first of all. The community association in December is going to do a blue sky. We're going to talk about these amenities and talk about things we can do. This is not a one meeting shot. This is going to take several meetings us to figure it out here. But to your point, don't get too discouraged for this year about what you saw out there. Some of it is COVID driven, and people did kind of stay away. It was a little one of those because of touch points and all those things. So give it a little bit more shot.
Well, I was one that kind of pushed for the whole avenue courts and having the pickleball courts. I experienced being out west on vacations in the winterizing out there, that pickleball is a great activity. And I just expected to be here about the same, and we have not gotten the same results over the last 2 years.
Yeah, but we'll see.
Not that we're giving up.
No, we don't give up yet.
Another swim and racket question. Given the increased year-round full-time resident populations, are we considering a way to better utilize this facility, being the swim and racket club, in the off-season through offering residents rentals, fee-based, or community events?
Well, I think we've tried all the above, have we not, John?
Yes, we have contracts for these people. If you want to use those facilities for those, they're more than welcome to do it. We're planned for it, and we're ready for it. We've had how much activity?
Yeah, we've had a couple of inquiries to it. Unfortunately, they did conflict with some of the other things that we had going on, which is here or there. Again, community events up there, it's all part of where we're heading towards yet. So again, the topic is bigger than
I think the first year we had like birthday parties up there.
Yeah,
We still had roofed off areas for them, but when COVID hit, it kind of put the damper on those activities. Although we are prepared to do it, and yes, it is available.
Yep, I think it's well said.
Another swim and racket question. Have you ever considered expanding the swim and racket restaurant section to be used as a meeting and gathering spot for residents?
The answer would be yes on that. We have, again, this is not a restaurant up there. This is a snack bar, okay? It has limitations, and those limitations is what drives this thing, and we got to be careful with that. However, again, it kind of goes back to the community events and people wanting to socialize and connect with it. I think that's something that our pool committee needs to take a deeper look at.
Absolutely.
And see what they can do with that. Because they're our connection to that, as far as connecting the people to socialize at the Southern Racquet Club. So why don't we say that that question has some thoughts to it, but we need more input.
Why isn't there a requirement for the owners of vacant lots to keep them mowed?
Clearly, in our declarations and our CCRs, it states that it's supposed to be left in its natural terrain. Therefore, you're not supposed to do anything to a vacant lot, all right? You're not supposed to do anything in the 50-foot of your lot that you have without approvals to that. So the property's idea was to be natural looking, is what it is. So the answer is no, because we've stated it's supposed to be natural. We're not going to. However, if there's a safety issue or a tree that's going to be dead or something of that nature, that we can enforce.
Another community development question, could we connect our existing trails and also create and connect the grass or gravel hiking trails in the undeveloped areas?
Question is yes, is the answer to us, and yes, it's part of something we're looking at in our blue sky and in our amenities, again, what we've kind of been talking about here today. When you get into the developments out there, and I'm going to speak to Eagleton's, I'm going to talk to Residents Club, and we'll talk to Foxwood out there. It is the responsibility of the developer to put those types of pathways in, and we do have a designated path system of where they're supposed to go with it. Well, right now we don't currently have a developer at Eagleton's, so we don't have currently really a developer in the Res Club. We have start movement out in Foxwood right now and moving along. The path would not be yet at this stage, it'd be towards the end of it. And we know the person developing out there who's doing it is, he's all in favor of the walking paths, and he'll do something, so, yet to come.
Rather than incurring the expense of adding paths along GN Avenue South, it's the boulevard, or any other roads, have we thought about just painting a bike walk lane on the road?
No, I haven't given any yet. I think we have some good thoughts and that's coming, so.
I will tell you on the
By the way, that shows we do listen to the questions. I mean, just so you know.
we have taken a look at the whole property, the avenue east, west, south, to try to put a walking path in there. It is physically impossible to do it. There's not enough land to make it happen. On the boulevard, because the road is wider, it's a good idea to put, at least the minimum is put the lines on there to designate a walking area. The other ones are a little more difficult to do. We can actually take a look at it as we go along and see if we can come up with a system that really kind of connects things together. But right now, we're going to look at the boulevard, see what it does, and use that information to move forward.
Well, just so that they hear that we did think of going down the middle of the boulevard.
Yes, we did.
And when we took a hard look at that and we went through it, one of the biggest things that we found was it can be done, okay? But here's the two things that made us go, I don't think that's such a good idea. Number one, down the middle of that is there. That's really the main connection of all the utilities that we bring to the community. So if there was a problem there, they'd be digging up our path to get underneath of it. The second thing is, take a look at the beautiful trees that make it so beautiful on the boulevard. I would disrupt that root system, and I probably would kill trees.
And we were told by an expert we were going to kill the trees. So
and that kind of led us away from that.
We're not going to do that.
Yeah.
The deer population in GN has greatly increased over recent years. Of course, we all love wildlife, but it is very difficult to keep deer away from our plants. Do others have a similar problem? What can be done?
Yeah, again, a very emotional topic. You can go either way with it. But the idea is, yes, people do have the issue of the deer eating their plant life out there. It does exist. You can do things to it. Number one, plant things that are deer resistant. I mean, you know, try to do something that route over there.
Spray.
Spray out there, you can do some spraying out there. Here's the thing, the way the building's going on out there and the way things are moving around, remember this, we're also displacing them too right now. So they're moving around a little bit. What used to be a nice foresty area, it's now got a house on it.
Yeah, we've kind of turned into a different residential type area. I know we have 1,800 acres. We calculated with the roads, the golf course, and the lots, we've cut down the available acreage for the deer to about 1,200 acres. And there are statistics that say what the biological carrying capacity should be for the community. I can tell you we're over. We have no plans in the budget this year to do anything with wildlife. It does not mean we won't come back, take a look at it in the near future. For the last year we took out 21 deer.
Correct.
We asked the DNR to tell us the health of the deer herd. They said it was in good shape. They did not give us what I was looking for some other information to give us some guidelines. Again, we're not planning anything in the budget for this year, but it's going to be addressed again in the future. You can rest assured it's just going to happen. We have to do it.
Just a tidbit just to finish it off of there. And the 21 deer that we did have, we did process some, and that food did go to the food pantries.
Right.
So, I mean, it was not, we were, you know, again, it wasn't just a slaughter.
The recent installed lighting and landscaping at the front entrance looks great. However, we have not addressed the limited visibility of the entrance when entering from Route 50 from the north at night. Will additional lighting or reflective paint be considered to improve visibility?
And the answer to the question is no, because it's a difficult situation. First and foremost, if you go up to the monument sign where the brick wall is there, that's where the easement ends for the state of Wisconsin. Highway 50 is a state road. Okay, I can't go put any lighting out there that could cause a problem for a driver or their vision. So that's the first problem out there. It's the state. It's not us, John. I mean, the state has to do it. We used to have a light pole out there years ago on the flip side of the road. They took that out, and the reason they took it out is, number one, it was too bright for the night sky that exists due to Yerkes over here. And the next thing it was dangerous. You have this pole, it was all about 3 feet off the road. Imagine if you slid and hit the pole out there. They took it out of there. They also said it was way too bright as far as for vision of vehicles. Difficult that we have to work with out there. We understand. With the lighting we did out there, we opened things up out there so you can see a little bit clearer getting in there. We were hoping. We do have another light thing that we're going to bring that's a little bit out there that we hope helps the situation. It cascades on the ground though.
Right, and that's right at the tip of the boulevard.
Right at the tip there, right.
So you can see where you need to turn. But I think you all agree that we've taken out a lot of foliage. We've opened that thing up. You can see that entrance from a long ways off now.
Yeah, it's
so
bright.
To make the turn though, and I understand coming from the north, that we have now going to put a light that's coming right on the edge of that tip of the boulevard so you know where to turn.
Correct. Again, we understand the problem. And we understand and we appreciate what the problem is. We're very limited in what we can do out there, because here's what I have to pay attention to, and it was one of those, even the lights we put out there, we had to make sure there's no way that glare could hit a driver, okay, and it just takes a second, okay? So again, there's a lot of thought that has to go into this. We talked about the painting of the road out there and doing all that. Again, I'd have to talk to the state, and when I start putting down reflective paint out there, they're going to want to know what we're doing.
Okay. Well, folks, that's the end of the questions.
Yep.
I thank you for attending, and we'll see you next time.
What do you think, John? We did it, huh? Thanks a lot.